Okay, let's unpack this. We're embarking on a truly fascinating deep dive today into what many might call the very spirit of self-reliance. Now, for you, our initial thought might lead straight to an iconic American voice, Ralph Waldo Emerson, who famously urged us to trust thyself. Every heart vibrates to that iron string. That sentiment, that unwavering conviction in one's own inner compass is absolutely foundational to our theme today. But what's truly exciting is that the collection of sources you've provided for us, from ancient spiritual texts, some millennia old, to modern philosophical insights and even contemporary psychology paints an even richer, more expansive picture of this universal quest. It's far less about a single voice, whether Emerson's or anyone else's, and much more about a timeless human yearning for inner truth, for that core conviction that the divine is best found not through external creeds or rigid institutions, but through intuition and direct personal experience.
What's truly profound here is the historical continuity. While Emerson crystallized this idea for a particular American moment, the journey to self-reliance is, as you say, deeply personal, yet it's also a recurring, resonant theme across human experience and countless traditions, spanning continents and centuries. We see direct echoes of that trust thyself sentiment woven throughout history, each culture and philosophical school offering unique, often surprisingly similar, perspectives on finding the divine. It's about recognizing that deeper truth not in external dogmas or strict structures, but through intuition and direct lived experience. Our deep dive today will help us connect those very dots, revealing a complex, deeply human, and utterly universal story of spiritual autonomy and inner knowing that goes far beyond any single philosopher or era.
Exactly. This isn't just an academic exercise. So our mission today is to meticulously distill the most important nuggets from these incredibly diverse sources, helping you navigate these profound ideas and, crucially, discover those genuine aha moments that make you truly well-informed without ever feeling overwhelmed. Get ready, because we're about to explore the inherent goodness of humanity, the deep wisdom embedded in nature, and how we find that divine connection within ourselves. Through countless lenses, we'll look at the very landscape of the self, how we perceive it, how we cultivate it, how we tap into the divine that resides within, and then, perhaps most importantly, how we live those powerful principles out in the complex reality of the world.
Sounds like quite a journey. Where do we start?
Well, our journey immediately pushes us to look inward, to examine the very nature of our thoughts and identities. Eckhart Tolle, in his transformative work, A New Earth, points out a fundamental human reality that often goes unexamined, yet dictates so much of our experience. He observes that as soon as something is perceived, whether it's an object, a situation, or even an internal sensation, it is named, interpreted, compared with something else, liked, disliked, or called good or bad by the phantom self, the ego.
The ego, that constant inner commentator.
Exactly. He argues that we are so often imprisoned in thought forms, in object consciousness. It's this constant, almost automatic mental activity, this relentless labeling and judging that shapes and often distorts our perception of reality, preventing us from experiencing things as they truly are. It's like our inner commentator never takes a day off.
That's a crucial observation, and if we connect this to the bigger picture of self-reliance, maybe even the Emersonian idea, Tolle highlights that true spiritual awakening, or perhaps true liberation of the self, isn't genuinely possible until the compulsive and unconscious naming ceases, or at least you become aware of it. This isn't about trying to stop thought entirely, which is, well, almost impossible, right? Rather, it's about the act of observation, of creating an inner space between the observer and the thought.
Inner space. I like that.
Yeah. This is how we become not possessed by the mind anymore, meaning the constant chatter and judgments no longer control our reactions or dictate our identity. This raises an important question for all of us. How much of what we accept as our reality is actually just a construct of this phantom self, a product of relentless mental labeling and judgment, rather than a direct, unmediated experience? The profound aha here is realizing that this internal monologue, this compulsive interpretation, defines our ego and keeps us from a deeper, more authentic reality, and that freedom begins with simply noticing it.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it, just how much of what we fundamentally believe is us is really just a meticulously crafted story we've been telling ourselves, perhaps for decades. Michael A. Singer, in The Untitled Soul, delves even deeper into this, describing how our entire psyche is being built piece by piece by pulling together memories and selective impressions, and then quite emphatically saying, that's who you are.
Building a self out of bits and pieces.
Right. He paints a vivid picture of us clinging to events that happened when we were 10, meticulously organizing our past experiences, triumphs, and traumas to construct a consistent, albeit sometimes limiting, self-identity. But then he urges us to a powerful realization. You are not the events. You're the one who experienced the events. This idea of a false self we build to hide behind is really striking. It profoundly suggests that our identity is often less about our true inherent essence and more about a protective facade, a carefully curated collection of memories and labels that we mistake for our deeper self. The self-reliance here, perhaps, is in recognizing that we are the awareness, not the story.
Exactly. And what truly stands out across these sources is the consistent, resounding message that much of human pain is unnecessary. It is self-created as long as the unobserved mind runs your life, as Tolle states unequivocally in The Power of Now. This isn't just about, emotional discomfort. It's about the suffering that arises from our internal resistance to the present moment, this incessant identification with the mind, with this constructed self that we just discussed. That identification is directly correlated with suffering. So the path to freedom, to genuine self-reliance and inner peace, begins with that internal observation, with recognizing the mind's incessant chatter and the ego's interpretations for what they truly are. Merely mental processes, not the totality of who we are.
It's a profound liberation from a self-imposed prison, isn't it?
It really is. A recognition that our inherent worth and peace are not dependent on the fluctuations of our thoughts or the stories of our past.
So, okay, if this incessant labeling mind creates suffering and keeps us tethered to a false self, how do we disengage? How do we find that liberation, that genuine freedom and inner peace? John Kabat-Zinn, in Wherever You Go, There You Are, offers a remarkably clear and practical path for anyone to begin this journey. He explains, meditation means learning how to get out of this current of mind, sit by its bank and listen to it, learn from it, and then use its energies to guide us rather than to tyrannize us.
Sitting by the bank, that's a great image.
It is, isn't it? It's not about forcing stillness or attempting to empty the mind completely, which can be, well, frustrating. Instead, it's about cultivating presence, about observation without judgment, about creating space. He emphasizes letting silence leave space for the untamed to speak, which subtly hints at a deeper, more authentic voice, maybe that iron string Emerson talked about, waiting patiently to emerge when the mental noise and the ego's commentary begin to subside.
This immediately makes us consider, how do we actually practice this in our daily lives, beyond formal, seated meditation? Because that can feel quite separate sometimes. Kabat-Zinn, drawing on the wisdom of Nisargadatta Maharaj, suggests watching yourself in your daily life with alert interest, with the intention to understand rather than to judge, in full acceptance of whatever may emerge. This non-judgmental, alert attention is absolutely key. It's not about suppressing thoughts or emotions, but about deeply engaging with our internal world, with our thoughts, feelings, and sensations, without getting swept away by them or identifying with them.
So just watching with curiosity, almost.
Exactly. He asserts that this awareness removes obstacles and releases energies, and that intelligence, in this context, is the door to freedom, with alert attention being its mother. It's a profound call to moment self-observation, turning our daily lives into a continuous practice of mindful awareness as a pathway to inner liberation and true self-knowledge.
It's a powerful invitation to a fundamentally different way of being, isn't it? One that shifts our primary mode from maybe doing to being, from thinking to sensing. And Tolle, back in The Power of Now, gives us a wonderfully tangible and accessible way to do this with his suggestion to flood your body with consciousness.
Yes, the body scan, essentially.
Kind of, yeah. It's a deceptively simple yet powerful practice. He instructs you to close your eyes, perhaps lie flat, and then systematically focus your attention on different parts of your body. Your hands, feet, arms, legs, abdomen, chest, head, and so on. The goal isn't just to think about these parts, but to feel the life energy inside those parts as intensely as you can. After cycling through these individual parts, you then gradually broaden your awareness to feel the inner body in its totality as a single field of energy, and to hold that feeling for several minutes. It's about being intensely present in every cell of your body, creating a physical anchor that can pull you out of the mind's endless stream and into the immediacy and vitality of pure being. This is a direct experience of the self beyond thought.
Right, and this concept of inner quietude and direct embodied awareness finds a striking, maybe unexpected, parallel in the Cloud of Unknowing, that anonymous 14th century mystical text. It describes an inner man who calls naught all, in profound contrast to the outer man who perceives it as nothing. This naught, or dark contemplation, isn't an absence of light or understanding. Rather, it's described as a ghostly light that blinds one not from darkness, but for abundance of ghostly light.
That's a beautiful paradox, isn't it? Blinding light.
It really is. It suggests a profound, ungraspable truth that is revealed not through intellectual understanding or sensory perception, but through an internal stillness, a shedding of conventional understanding. The aha moment here is realizing that sometimes true spiritual illumination, a deeper knowing, comes from embracing what appears to be emptiness or darkness, because that very nothingness is, in fact, an overwhelming, unperceivable intensity of spiritual light. It's an intuitive, felt knowledge that bypasses the rational mind completely, allowing for a connection that words often fail to capture, akin to, well, maybe Emerson's iron string vibrating within.
This journey into inner stillness and embodied presence naturally leads us to the idea of an intuitive wisdom, a kind of natural unfolding that guides us beyond purely intellectual understanding, a deep knowing that is simply there. Lao Tzu, in the Tao Te Ching, offers this gentle yet profound advice. Allow your life to unfold naturally. Know that it too is a vessel of perfection.
Trusting the process.
Exactly. He tells us that the sage, seeing all of life as a movement toward perfection, has no need for the excessive, the extravagant, or the extreme. It's a description of a gentle, yielding power, where Tao does not use force against the world. This is a wisdom that inherently trusts the rhythm of existence, an organic path to harmony with oneself and the universe. It's about letting go of the need to control every outcome and instead flowing with the natural order.
What's truly illuminating here is how Benjamin Hoff in the Tao of Pooh so brilliantly elucidates this concept through the idea of the uncarved block. He explains that Pooh, a character often perceived as simple, can't describe the uncarved block. He just is it.
He is it, yeah.
This inner nature, or as he charmingly calls it, Coddleston Pie, is inherently connected to profound wisdom, not just cleverness or accumulated knowledge. Hoff draws a sharp distinction, stating, knowledge, yes. Cleverness, maybe. Wisdom, no. A clever mind is not a heart. Knowledge doesn't really care. Wisdom does. This beautifully illustrates that intuitive understanding isn't about intellectual acrobatics, about figuring things out with our logical minds. Instead, it's a deep experiential knowing that arises spontaneously from one's intrinsic nature. It's the wisdom of simply being, rather than constantly thinking or doing, trusting that fundamental goodness and inherent insight that Emerson called the iron string.
That's a perfect analogy, one that truly clarifies the concept and makes it so relatable. Winnie the Pooh teaching us about the Tao, and from the ancient wisdom of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, we hear about developing something called reality perceptive insight, known as a Tafar Buddhi. Let's break that down for a moment. Tafahar means truth-bearing, and Buddhi refers to our intellect, or awareness.
Truth-bearing awareness. Powerful.
Isn't it? This profound state is often metaphorically linked to the cleansed brow chakra, or third eye, a symbolic center of deep intuitive understanding. This powerful insight, we learn, comes from silencing mental and emotional energy, which Patanjali calls sita. It's important to understand this isn't about emptying your mind completely or suppressing emotions. Rather, it's about a prolonged, dedicated practice that allows a yogi to acquire conquest over his relationship with sensual force. It's a mastery achieved not through suppression, but through deep, conscious engagement and purification, ultimately leading to profound clarity and freedom from being controlled by external stimuli and internal fluctuations.
Which takes real discipline, real self-reliance in practice.
Absolutely.
And this raises an essential question that bridges these diverse traditions. Are these internal journeys merely psychological, perhaps just sophisticated forms of self-regulation, or do they truly connect us to something larger, something transcendent, something divine? The cloud of unknowing strongly hints at this, suggesting that the not we discussed earlier is so worthy a thing in itself that our wits cannot reason thereupon. It explicitly points to a truth that is better be felt than seen, emphasizing an experiential, almost super-rational connection to a deeper reality.
Felt, not seen.
Exactly. It's not something that can be analyzed or conceptually grasped by the ordinary logical mind, but rather something that is directly experienced, felt, and known in a way that transcends conventional understanding. This perfectly aligns with that Emersonian idea of intuitive spiritual truth, a truth that resonates deeply within us, independent of external proof or intellectual assent, affirming that profound self-reliance ultimately leads to a direct encounter with universal wisdom.
Okay, so building on this profound shift towards inner experience, our sources really challenge the widespread idea that spirituality is solely found within traditional religious structures, instead emphasizing an individual's direct encounter with the divine. Stephen Prothero, in his insightful book God is Not One, observes a significant, perhaps even revolutionary shift in global Christianity, particularly prominent in the Global South. He describes what he calls a post-dogmatic age of the spirit, in which individual spirituality trumps institutional religion.
Experience over theory.
That's the core of it. What he means by this is that the experience of the divine is displacing theories about it. Instead of focusing on theological doctrines or rigid creeds, there's a growing emphasis on direct, lived encounters with things like faith healing, speaking in tongues, and even exorcisms becoming everyday accepted occurrences. This represents a powerful move away from strict dogma and institutional authority towards a more personal, direct, and often overtly supernatural engagement with the divine, one that echoes Emerson's call to trust your own revelation.
That's a crucial point. And if we connect this to the broader philosophical landscape, Joseph Campbell, in The Power of Myth, offers a profound critique of the very notion of the supernatural as being something over and above the natural, as a killing idea. He argues quite forcefully that this separation turns the world into a wasteland and condemns individuals to inauthentic lives, where people are fulfilling purposes not properly theirs, but have been put upon them as inescapable laws.
That's a strong indictment.
It is. For Campbell, the true spirit is really the bouquet of life. It is not something breathed into life, it comes out of life. This perspective deeply resonates with ancient mother goddess religions, where the world is the body of the goddess, divine in itself. The aha here is realizing that the divine isn't some distant, otherworldly entity to be reached through intermediaries, but is rather inherently immanent, present within us and all of existence. This directly supports the idea of self-reliance, because if the divine is within, then the path to it is also within.
This idea of an immanent divine, one that emerges from life itself and permeates everything, is incredibly powerful. And, as Rollo May suggests in The Courage to Create, it often comes from individuals brave enough to challenge existing norms and perceptions. May speaks of historical saints who rebelled against an outmoded and inadequate form of God on the basis of their new insights into divinity.
Spiritual rebels, in a sense.
You could say that. These were figures who weren't necessarily seeking conflict, but whose profound, direct experiences of the divine simply transcended the conventional understanding of their time. These individuals, often ostracized and even persecuted by their contemporaries, actually raised the ethical and spiritual levels of their societies by their sheer courage to break through and disrupt what was originally clung to in conscious thinking. This powerfully suggests that true spiritual progress, and indeed the highest forms of self-reliance, often come from challenging existing frameworks, from new direct experiences that redefine our understanding of the divine and our fundamental connection to it.
So this leads us to the natural question. What does this direct experience, this intensely personal connection with the divine, actually feel like? Michael Pollan, in How to Change Your Mind, explores the insights gleaned from psychedelic experiences, describing them as leading to a profound experience where one understands what God is or his connection to the universe. He emphasizes a critical point. These insights don't come from nowhere. They come from inside our minds, effectively opening a new door on one's mind.
The doors of perception.
Exactly. He even quotes Timothy Leary's famous exhortation from an LSD experience. Listen, wake up, you are God. Now, this isn't necessarily an endorsement of psychedelics, obviously, but an observation from the source that these substances can, for some, unlock an inherent capacity of consciousness, suggesting the transcendent might be an internal reality, revealed rather than externally received. It's a powerful challenge to our assumptions about where such profound spiritual understanding originates.
What's truly fascinating here, regardless of the method or tradition, is the common thread that weaves through various profound experiences, whether they are induced by psychedelics, through prolonged spiritual practice, or spontaneous mystical encounters. James Redfield, in The Celestine Prophecy, for instance, describes a mystical experience as a euphoric connection with everything, and this total kind of security and confidence. He notes that after such an experience, a person felt no longer tired.
That sense of unity and boundless energy.
Right. It resonates deeply. It suggests a universal human capacity for deep spiritual connection, an inherent potential for profound belonging and vitality that transcends ordinary states of consciousness. It's an undeniable shift in perception, a felt sense of unity and peace that validates the internal search for truth.
Indeed. And St. Teresa of Avila, a cornerstone of Christian mysticism, in her interior castle, provides a vivid, more traditional, yet equally intense account of this direct encounter. She describes a rapture or flight of the spirit, a rapid motion that the spirit seems to be transported, which fills it with fear initially because it's so utterly overwhelming and beyond normal experience.
Understandable, really.
Absolutely. She stresses the absolute necessity of great courage, faith and confidence and great resignation, to navigate these states and assures us of God's faithfulness against deception, as these genuine favors produce much good and inward peace. This raises an important question for us. Whether through ancient contemplative practices, modern explorations of consciousness, or spontaneous grace, these intense, often overwhelming encounters seem to share core characteristics: a dissolution of the ordinary self, a profound sense of unity, an overwhelming peace pointing to a fundamental aspect of human spiritual potential, an inner capacity for divine connection, reinforcing Emerson's conviction of the soul's direct access to truth.
The Cloud of Unknowing further elaborates on this intense internal journey, describing dark contemplation as a secret ladder to the union of love. It tells us that this purgation of the spirit moves far beyond ordinary meditation or prayer, leading to spiritual sweetness, but also, importantly, occasional necessities, aridities, darknesses, and perils.
So it's not all sweetness and light on this path.
Definitely not. This is a crucial detail because it acknowledges that this deep spiritual work is not always blissful. It involves a stripping away, a process of confronting and shedding all that is not essential, all that hinders the direct, unmediated connection with the divine. It's a path of intense purification that demands profound self-reliance, as the journey itself is intensely personal and often lacks external validation, pushing the individual to trust their own inner guidance through these challenging spiritual landscapes.
This internal exploration, whether gentle or intense, ultimately leads to a deeper understanding of the divine presence itself, not as an external force, but as an intimate, pervasive reality. Catherine Siena offers a beautiful and incredibly powerful analogy, inviting us to imagine God is like a very large and beautiful mansion or palace. What's truly striking is her assertion that even sinners commit misdeeds within the palace itself, that is, within God.
Wow. Everything happens within God.
That's the implication. This isn't a theological judgment, but a statement about the inescapable, all-encompassing nature of the divine. She highlights God's great mercy and long-suffering, and the profound truth that a soul's will, when united with God's, becomes contented to remain, even with pain, for the greater praise and glory of my name and the salvation of souls. This emphasizes an omnipresent divine reality, a sense of indwelling where all of life, every act and experience unfold within the divine, fundamentally redefining our understanding of where we are and who we are in relation to the sacred.
This idea of indwelling, that the divine is not merely external but intimately present within us in all things, is powerfully echoed by Thomas Merton in his autobiographical masterpiece, The Seven-Story Mountain. He recounts a profound experience where he enters a solitude that was an impregnable fortress, and a silence that spoke to me and spoke louder and more eloquently than any voice.
Silence speaking.
Yes. In this quiet, clean-smelling room, he experiences a moment of profound realization. He realized truly whose house that was, O glorious Mother of God. A sudden, overwhelming sense of intimate divine presence that utterly transformed his understanding of reality. It's a powerful testament to finding the sacred in seemingly ordinary moments of quietude, reinforcing the Emersonian idea that the divine is always accessible if we simply tune into that inner vibration.
And out, A Course in Miracles reinforces this profoundly, providing a radical statement on our inherent nature. It states that God and his creations remain in surety and therefore know that no miscreation exists. This is a foundational premise. It affirms that God knows you only in peace, and this is your reality, and that your godlike mind can never be defiled.
Never defiled. That's huge.
It is. The text powerfully asserts, what God wills for himself, he wills for you. What he wills for you is yours, emphasizing a deep, inherent, and unbreakable connection to divine will and peace. This fundamentally challenges the idea of a separate, fallen self, or a self that needs to earn its divinity. Instead, it posits that our true nature is irrevocably tied to this flawless, peaceful, and divine reality, aligning perfectly with Emerson's belief in the inherent goodness and divinity within each individual, the idea that our true self is already perfect and complete.
And if we look to the ancient Indian wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita, we find Antas affirming his unique individuality and emphasizing the subordination of impersonal Brahman to him. For those unfamiliar, Brahman is often understood as the ultimate, impersonal, all-pervading reality or cosmic principle. What's crucial here is that Kunga clarifies that the path to understanding this profound mysticism, this direct personal connection to the divine, is through devotion, or bhakti yoga.
The path of devotion.
Right. It is by fixing the mind upon kuna with transcendental faith that one becomes most perfect in yoga. This provides a clear, structured path to experiencing the divine, not merely through abstract philosophical speculation or intellectual debate, but through personal commitment, dedicated practice, and heartfelt engagement. It underscores that this direct divine connection is accessible through a chosen path of devotion and faith, where self-reliance is expressed through the unwavering commitment of one's inner being.
So many paths, yet all seem to point towards that direct internal connection.
Exactly. Which leads us to the next big question. With this profound internal shift, this understanding of an inner landscape and a pervasive divine presence, how do we then live in the world? How do we embody these principles in our daily lives? C.S. Lewis, in his classic Mere Christianity, offers a surprisingly practical take on humility, a virtue that might at first seem counterintuitive to self-reliance, but is actually deeply interconnected.
Humility and self-reliance, how do they fit?
Well, Lewis argues that God doesn't demand humility because he himself was proud, as if seeking adoration, but rather because he wants you to know him. True humility, Lewis suggests, is a delightedly humble state, a profound relief from what he calls the silly nonsense about your own dignity, the constant need to prove ourselves or maintain a grand facade. He offers wonderfully tangible advice. By consciously acting as if you were really a son of God or a daughter of the divine, you quickly begin to see where the pretense could be made less of a pretense and more of a reality. This applies even to the most simple acts, like writing a letter with genuine kindness or helping with dishes with a joyful spirit. It's about embodying, rather than just intellectualizing, our higher self, letting the inner truth guide our outer actions.
Acting as if. That's a powerful practice. And this emphasis on internal cultivation leading directly to outward, ethical action is beautifully clear in the Philokalia, a foundational collection of texts from the Eastern Orthodox spiritual tradition. It states unequivocally that a lover of virtue willingly puts out the fire of sensual pleasure. This isn't about denial for denial's sake, but about a disciplined approach. Through rigorous self-control and patiently enduring the harsh and painful afflictions that life presents, one achieves purity of heart.
Purity of heart, allowing one to see God.
Precisely. This purity, in turn, is what allows them to see God and receives the gift of dispassion. For clarity, dispassion here doesn't mean indifference or a lack of feeling. Rather, it refers to a state of inner freedom from the tyranny of passions and attachments. It's a profound spiritual stillness where one responds to life from a place of clarity and love rather than reactivity. This tradition directly connects inner work, often through ascetic practices and prayer, to an ethical life of purity and freedom from attachment, which then becomes the very means of experiencing the divine. It's a path where virtue is not just moral, but profoundly spiritual, a testament to deep self-governance.
And we see similar calls for a radical ethic, one that profoundly challenges conventional self-interest and the complete gospel parallels. Here, Jesus teaches us to love your enemies and pray for your persecutors, and don't react violently against the one who is evil. When someone slaps you on the right cheek, turn the other as well.
Turning the other cheek, incredibly difficult.
Immensely. This isn't a call for passivity in the face of injustice, but a profound directive for self-mastery. The essence of this revolutionary ethic, one that demands immense inner strength and self-reliance, is captured in the simple, yet eternally profound instruction. Always treat people the way you want them to treat you. This isn't about weakness, it's about a profound inner strength and moral courage that transcends reactive behavior. It asks us to choose a higher path, guided by internal principle rather than external provocation, relying on our own capacity for love and compassion.
This naturally leads us to an important question. What exactly constitutes true activity in a life guided by these deep principles of self-reliance and inner wisdom? Erich Fromm, in his timeless work, The Art of Loving, draws a critical distinction between what he calls modern activity, which is often aimed at external goals like business success, career advancement, or accumulating possessions, and a higher, more profound activity of the soul.
Activity of the soul.
Yes. He describes this latter as the highest activity there is, one that is possible only under the condition of inner freedom and independence. He argues that love, in its truest form, is an action, the practice of a human power, which can be practiced only in freedom and never as the result of a compulsion. This challenges our conventional notions of productivity and success, suggesting that true spiritual activity, the kind that nurtures ourselves and others, stems from an internal, uncoerced source, from a deep well of self-reliance, rather than from external demands or societal pressures. It's a profound redefinition of what it means to be actively engaged in one's life.
That perfectly aligns with M. Scott Peck's definition of love in The Road Less Traveled, which is truly transformative. He defines love as the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own and another's spiritual growth.
An act of will, not just feeling.
Exactly. This is far from a romanticized, fleeting emotion. He emphasizes that genuine love is fundamentally volitional rather than emotional, describing it as a committed, thoughtful decision, implying a deliberate act of will even when intense, loving feelings are not present. This is profound, as it means love is a choice, a conscious and active engagement with the world and others rather than simply a passive feeling we wait to be overwhelmed by. It underscores the active, self-reliant nature of true compassion and connection, demanding continuous effort and conscious intention to foster growth, both within ourselves and in those we care for. It's a disciplined form of self-expression.
Now, switching gears slightly, some of our sources dive into the intense societal challenges and historical realities that severely test these principles of self-reliance and inner truth. This is where it gets really complex. James Baldwin, in his searing and essential work, The Fire Next Time, offers a blistering critique of racial injustice in America. He describes with painful clarity the white man's heaven as simultaneously the black man's hell.
Powerful, stark language.
Extremely. He highlights what he identifies as Christianity's unmitigated arrogance and cruelty in its historical realm of power, which he argues was tragically used to justify conquest and liberating the infidels, often with far more concern for the soul than for the brutalized body. Baldwin further details Malcolm X's incisive observation that the cry of violence is typically raised only when black men indicate that they will fight for their rights, powerfully contrasting this with how the conquests of England are part of what Americans have in mind when they speak of England's glory. Baldwin here isn't just observing, he's laying bare the profound hypocrisy and the deep disconnect between stated ideals and lived realities, forcing us to confront the systemic forces that actively suppress true self-reliance for entire groups of people.
Indeed, Baldwin's work is absolutely crucial, exposing the deep pain, paranoia, and existential struggle in what he calls a society that is entirely hostile. For our discussion on self-reliance, this raises an incredibly challenging, almost unbearable question. What does it truly mean to cultivate inner truth, autonomy, and the inherent goodness Emerson spoke of, when the external world is actively denying your humanity and systematically undermining your dignity?
A question with no easy answers.
None at all. Baldwin speaks of the spiritual resilience not to hate the hater whose foot is on your neck, and, even more profoundly, an even greater miracle of perception and charity not to teach your child to hate. This is not passive acceptance, but a profound, almost defiant act of internal self-governance. It demands an extraordinary level of self-awareness and conscious choice to prevent external hostility and injustice from corrupting one's inner landscape, one's very soul. His searing question, posed from the perspective of the Negro, do I really want to be integrated into a burning house, isn't just a political query, it's an existential challenge to the very idea of self-reliance itself. It suggests that true inner freedom and spiritual integrity might sometimes mean refusing to conform to a deeply flawed external reality, and instead seeking an authentic path that prioritizes one's inherent dignity, even if it leads to a solitary or difficult journey. It asks us all to confront how truly challenging and complex the pursuit of inner peace and self-trust can be in a world filled with systemic external conflict.
And just to be clear, we're presenting Baldwin's analysis here as his observation from the source material about this profound social conflict and its deep impact on spirituality and self-conception. Now, on another challenging front, the Quran excerpts you've provided offer a stark contrast in their directives regarding polytheists, or those who worship multiple gods or other deities. The text describes instructions to kill them wherever you find them, arrest them, imprison them, besiege them, and lie in wait for them at every site of ambush.
Those are very strong directives.
They are. However, it is crucial to note that these directives are conditional. They apply unless they repent, perform the prayer, and pay the alms. End quote. What's more, and critically, the text also includes the instruction that if a polytheist seeks your protection, grant him protection until he hears the speech of God. This demonstrates the inherent complexity and varied instructions often found within religious texts regarding engagement with those who hold different beliefs. It showcases how texts can contain both stern directives, often understood within specific historical and geopolitical context of early Islam, alongside clear pathways for mercy, protection, and peaceful dialogue, reflecting nuanced approaches to intergroup relations within a specific religious framework. Again, we present this impartially, just reporting what the source states, recognizing that self-reliance, even within a religious framework, requires individuals to navigate and interpret these directives in their own lives, often balancing strictures with compassion.
This definitely raises an important question about how we as individuals navigate such intense external pressures, societal judgments, or even the perceived hostility from differing groups. all while striving to maintain our internal integrity and self-reliance. Brené Brown's extensive research on shame, discussed in her book Daring Greatly, is incredibly relevant here. She explains that what we often see as grandiosity, entitlement, and admiration seeking are not necessarily signs of strength, but frequently function as a balm to soothe the ache of being too ordinary and inadequate.
Shame driving external behaviors.
Exactly. These behaviors, she argues, often stem from the fear of not being worthy of real connection. Her concept of shame resilience becomes absolutely key here. It's defined as the ability to recognize shame and move through it while maintaining our worthiness and authenticity. This provides a powerful framework for cultivating internal strength amidst external judgment, allowing us to remain true to our inherent worth, to our core, authentic self, even when facing immense societal expectations, criticism, or hostility. It's a modern guide to psychological self-reliance.
Given these profound challenges, both internal and external, and the deep internal work required to truly live an authentic life, how do we tap into our personal power to remain self-reliant and purposeful? Don Miguel Ruiz, in the Four Agreements, offers a direct and empowering call to action. He urges us to find the courage to break those agreements that are fear-based and claim your personal power.
Break the agreements. What does he mean by that?
Well, he explains that our personal power is dissipated by all the agreements we have created throughout our lives, agreements with ourselves, with society, with our families, which often trap us in the dream of the planet. This dream is the collective set of beliefs and rules we unconsciously adopt. It's a powerful call to reclaim our inherent energy and agency by consciously identifying and releasing the limiting beliefs and agreements we've internalized from our environment. The aha is realizing that many of the limitations we perceive are self-imposed through these unspoken agreements, and we have the power to revoke them and redefine our own reality.
Reclaiming personal power. I like that. Marcus Aurelius, in his Timeless Meditations, offers an ancient Stoic perspective on this same theme of agency and immediate personal responsibility, a true testament to practical self-reliance. He advises, "Don't form designs as if you were to live 1,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while you may become good."
A stark reminder. Live now. Be good now.
Pretty much. This is a stark, powerful reminder of our mortality and a direct call to immediate action. He advises focusing intensely on one's own actions to be just and holy, consistently running on the straight line without turning aside. This isn't about grand gestures or seeking external validation. It emphasizes the profound and immediate impact of our personal choices on our character, on who we are in this very moment. It's about the importance of self-directed, ethical living in every single moment, making virtue and integrity the bedrock of our self-reliance. It asks us to be the person we wish to be right now.
That's a powerful call to immediate personal agency, to embody our principles here and now, a kind of radical present moment self-reliance. And what's truly remarkable is how these profound truths, these echoes of self-reliance and inner wisdom, can resonate and reflect even in the most everyday, seemingly mundane aspects of our lives. It's not just in grand spiritual quests or intense philosophical contemplation. Sometimes the simplest acts can hold the deepest wisdom, reflecting the very principles we've discussed. For example, one of your sources, An Everlasting Meal, a beautiful book that approaches cooking with a mindful philosophy, offers simple advice, noting that most herbs retain their personalities from soil to soup pot.
Herbs have personalities.
Apparently so. While a practical culinary tip, it offers a beautiful, subtle metaphor for the very inherent nature we've been discussing throughout this deep dive, that core essence, our uncarved block, our Emersonian iron string, that persists and influences our actions, no matter the circumstances or transformations. It's about understanding and respecting the essence, from soil to soup pot and from self to action, allowing its unique quality to shine through.
That's lovely indeed. And finally, The Artist's Way, a guide for creative recovery, reminds us that whether we identify as artists or simply as creative beings navigating a demanding world, we must be self-nourishing and consciously replenish our creative resources. This filling the well, as Julia Cameron calls it, isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. It involves the active pursuit of images to refresh our artistic reservoirs.
Feeding the inner life.
Precisely. Art, it suggests, is born in attention, and its midwife is detail. This highlights that even our creative output, the way we shape and interact with the world, stems from a deeply personal, attentive engagement with our inner landscape. It's a powerful reminder that self-reliance isn't just about survival or stoic endurance. It's about cultivating the richness of our inner world, nurturing our creative spirit, and allowing that wellspring of personal insight to flow into and enrich every aspect of our lives.
Wow. From the ego to herbs, quite a sweep.
It really was. What a journey we've just taken. From the intricate workings of the ego and the constant chatter of the mind to profound, sometimes overwhelming encounters with the divine, and then to the practicalities of living an authentic, ethical, and creative life in a complex world. These sources truly offer a rich and expansive tapestry of self-reliance, not as a solitary or selfish ideal, but as a deeply interconnected quest that transcends cultures, centuries, and even individual belief systems, always pointing back to that core truth within.
So what does all of this mean for you, our listener? We've seen that self-reliance isn't just about individualism. It's about far more. It's about trusting an inner source of wisdom, connecting with the divine through direct, felt experience, rather than solely through external doctrines. It's about cultivating profound awareness of your own mental processes, embracing humility, acting with conscious intention and expansive love, and even facing intense societal challenges with a deep, unwavering spiritual resilience. It's about always leaning into that inherent goodness, that inner truth that Emerson urged us to trust. This exploration raises an important, deeply personal question. How will you, in your own unique life, choose to lean into that iron string within, cultivating your inner landscape and letting its wisdom not just resonate, but actively guide your actions in the world? How will you make that inner conviction your lived reality?
That's a truly powerful thought to leave you with, and it's precisely at the heart of what we strive to explore here on the Deep Dive. These deep dives are all about connecting with that inner knowing, helping you to see the profound threads of wisdom that weave across seemingly disparate traditions and texts. We sincerely hope this expensive exploration has given you new tools, fresh perspectives, and a renewed sense of possibility to reflect on your own journey toward inner understanding and the wisdom that comes from within. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into self-reliance. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and above all, keep trusting that clear, authentic inner voice.